Well, people should be very concerned about the fact that it's become much more difficult to organize. The Act is supposed to encourage the practice and procedure of collective bargaining, and it's become much more difficult to organize in part because of the courts and even the board itself cutting back on some of those rights. Also, the narrowing of the definition of the statutory definition of employee means that many, many less workers are protected by the Act. So in that way, the Act is not living up to its promises of giving rights to all workers. And also, the remedies have been curtailed. The Act itself doesn't allow for great remedies. That was very early on was cut back, and even more so recently, the remedies, there's no punitive remedies. There hasn't been statutory amendments like there were in the Civil Rights Act that would increase the penalties. So I would say that in many ways the Act is not living up to fulfilling its promises of encouraging the practice and procedure of collective bargaining.
Do we see, and I'll let you go in 1 second, do we see any hints that, you know, some positive changes will begin to happen and the promise of the Act will begin to change, or are we headed on a rough path right now?
Well, I really do believe in education, so I'm glad that came out in the panel. So I'm not sure whether there will be change, but I think that in order to have change, you need to educate, which is what we're trying to do at West Virginia University, is educate people as to what their rights are. For example, I think even unorganized workers who do not have a union, have Section 7 rights. They have a right to not, for example, they can't be fired just because they ask for a raise on behalf of other workers. These are things that both employers and workers need to understand, and then maybe, just maybe, the promises of Section 7 and the Wagner Act will be fulfilled.